Dear Gideon, I promise to support you in everything you want to do with your life, even if you have to work harder than most people in order to accomplish it. I promise to always believe you if you say you're not ready for sex. I will always believe you if you say someone forced you to have sex, even if it was a girl. I promise not to ask questions the night of if you call me at 3 a.m. because you feel uncomfortable, whether because you've been drinking or doing drugs or because your friends have been doing one or the other, or even if it's nothing in general. I'm not going to tell you that you can't be friends with them anymore if they've been drinking or you have. I just want you to think long and hard about what kind of friends you actually want around you. I promise to be a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on. I promise not to judge your girlfriends, or boyfriends if you swing that way, too hard. I promise to love you always and forever, and I promise to always remind you how proud I am of you. You are the greatest thing that ever happened to me, and I want you to always remember that. Love, your mom. This was a letter that I wrote a few years ago now, when Gideon was first born. Probably about almost 4 years now. And you know what? I found it the other day. I forgot that I had written it, actually. I actually have a notebook of advice, notes that I've written to him, things like that, that I'll eventually give him when he's older. But I don't know how many of you have ever heard of the app TikTok, or how many of you use it, or whatever. Excuse me, but I have an account. I don't really post anything. I think I have like 3 videos from like months ago. But I watch a lot of other people's videos on there. And you know, they started talking about, I've seen a lot of videos of kids talking about how abusive their parents were growing up. And you know, my parents weren't completely abusive. Like, they've said some pretty shitty stuff to me, you know, and yes, a lot of the way that I perceive the world is because of what they taught me. But most of my issues happened long before I got adopted. And you know, my biological parents, they don't know my dad. My mom was a fucking druggie, so it wasn't like, and I only lived with her until I was 2, so she was more of the physically, like, neglecting, where my adoptive parents are more of the emotionally neglecting, pretty much, because it wasn't always so much that they said stuff, it was just the fact that they weren't there emotionally when I needed them. And it got me thinking about how I would be with Gideon when he gets older, and you know, the things that I want to teach him, and how I want him to perceive the world. Because by the time I was 4 years old, I realized how dark the world was, and I don't want him to, not that I want him to be, you know, completely oblivious to how the world works, but he doesn't need to know about drugs or sex by the time he's 4 years old. I mean, he'll be 4 in November, so. But he doesn't need to know any of that right now. He shouldn't know any of that yet. And even now, I still, like, on a daily basis tell him how proud I am of him, because he might not be able to fluently talk. He might not be able to make actual words that we understand, but he still talks and he still understands what everyone's saying. And so I don't want him to ever feel like a waste of space, or to ever, feel like I'm disappointed or something. And he might not understand those emotions right now. He really only understands like the basic, the basic emotions of happy, sad, angry, things like that. And I personally don't tell him that I'm angry with him, because I think that's a pretty strong emotion for me to use for a 4-year-old. Usually I say that I'm sad, as in, what you did hurt me. That teaches him or I'll say that hurt my feelings, because that helps him understand the emotional pain of something, that what he doesn't always cause a physical reaction. Sometimes it's an emotional reaction. But think back to how my parents were when I was a teenager. By the time I was even when I was in middle school, my mom refused to let me to go to any school dance, because she felt like I'd have sex with the first guy that, asked me to, put out. Even though I never gave her a reason other than the fact that I have a flirty personality. I'm just nice to people. And some people take it the wrong way and think that I'm hitting on them or whatever, and it's like, no, I'm just trying to be nice. And it didn't matter how many times I told my mom that was all it was. She felt like I wanted to have sex with everyone. And when I was 15, I got raped by one of my previous foster brothers. I've told this story on here. I don't know if it ever got saved. I know that the original video that I had made talking about it got taken down, but I know I've talked about it since then in some of my other videos, other live streams, things like that. But when I told my mom, because I didn't tell her right away, I told her a little bit after, and she pretty much told me it was my fault, that I led him on, even though he would have been, let's see, 12. He would have been 27 when I was 15. So he was a lot older than me. I mean, shit, when I was 18, Jordan was 25, and people still looked at that pretty bizarrely. But yeah, my foster brother is 12 years older than me. But my mom pretty much said it was my fault, and didn't actually believe me when I said that it was rape. She just thought that I was trying to keep my parent, like, keep her and my dad from being mad at me for having sex. And it's like, no, I told you I didn't want to have sex. Which is why when I brought my letter, that I'll always believe you if you say you're not ready. Not that my dad gave me this sex talk when I was 15, before that whole rape thing happened. The thing was, I pretty much had the sex talk in health class at least 3 times by this point. So by the time that my dad sat down to talk to me about it, I said, I already know what you're going to say. I already learned about it in school, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, and here is the one thing I have to say about that. I was like, first off, I'm not ready to have sex with anyone. Second, I wouldn't have sex with anyone that I went to school with. First of all, I was like, none of the guys are acted mature enough for me to want to have sex with them. I was like, third of all, I was like, I can't promise that I'll wait until I'm married. I was like, but I promise you that the first time I have sex with, be with someone that I trust, or someone that I know will, not just respect my body, but respect my heart and my mind. And then a few months after that was when I got raped. And I didn't tell either of my parents. That point was when I first was put on birth control. I ended up getting a morning after pill when I went to the doctors, and neither me nor my doctor told my parents about what happened. I told my doctor I didn't want my parents to know. I don't even know if that was legal for them not to tell my parents. But I didn't press charges then. The only time I ever, actually pressed charges was when I was little, when I first came to live with my parents. My dad pressed charges against my foster brother. But so much time had passed, and they said that because I was 3, I wasn't 4, that I wasn't, mature enough to be able to speak about that. And, but my mom pretty much laughed at me and said that it was my fault if that's actually what happened. It said that she didn't believe me, that she felt like I was just, trying to hide the fact that I had sex. And my dad got mad at her, because he remembered my conversation with him, and I said to him, I was like, I didn't want it. And I remember the shame that I felt, because, for a while after that, because of what my mom said, I thought it was my fault, I thought that I should have, tried to fight harder, even though it's hard to do when you're knocked out. I mean, it's taken me a long time to accept the fact that he was just a shitty human being. But it wasn't just that. When I told my parents, when I told my mom that I wanted to be a marine biologist, she pretty much told me to find something easier because I wasn't smart enough. sure, I might have had to work twice as hard as other people to accomplish that, but I still think it's something that I can do, and I want Gideon to understand that just because it might take you longer to accomplish what you're wanting, that doesn't mean that you're not smart enough to do it. And I want him to have those opportunities, to go to college and get a degree in something that he wants, even if he doesn't end up finding the job in the field that he's wanting. Just the experience of being in college, I feel, can help with independence and, learning to care for yourself, and there's a song called Rockabye, I think. I don't remember who it's by, but let me see, part of the song goes, hold on, shoot, I can't remember, something like, you'll have a good life, it'll be nothing like my life, and I know that this song is talking about a single mom, but I think that song works for any parent who has gone through a traumatic experience as a kid, or any part of their life before they have kids. I think that they feel that way, that they want to keep their kids from experiencing the same things, not so that they'll be oblivious to everything. Like, I don't want Gideon to... Everyone makes the joke that I lived under a rock when growing up, because there were so many things that, like so many movies and shows and books that I wasn't allowed to read or watch or whatever, that even though I'm 25 now, almost 25 in November, I still get in a conversation with someone mentions a movie or show, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, and they kind of look at me bizarre, because it's a show or a movie that came out when we were kids, that it should be something that I knew, but because my parents never let me watch a lot of shows or movies, I'm pretty oblivious to things like that. Yes, there are a lot of parts of how the world works that I don't want him to know yet, just because he's too young. But I mean, for those who know me, you know that I have a mouth like a sailor. I swear so much, and I do try to limit that when I'm around Gideon, but I'm a human being and I mess up, and there are some times where if I'm really frustrated, doesn't matter how hard I try, I still end up swearing around him. But I'd much rather have him learn it from me than from a show, because at least then I can say, yep, I'm responsible for him knowing that word, instead of being like, I don't know where he learned that from, and then being like, where'd you learn that from? And then, yeah. And maybe I'm just weird for feeling that way, but I don't know. But for those of you who watch my videos or watch my streams when I do live streams, if you've ever been in a situation where your parents didn't believe you or didn't react the right way, or not so much that they didn't react the right way, but didn't react in a positive way. I'm here for you. I mean, there's not much that I can do if you don't live close by, but I can always be a listening ear, and sometimes good at giving advice. I'm not gonna punch anyone or anything like that. That's not really what I do. But if you ever need to share anything, you can always message me. I'm here for you guys, and I appreciate you guys watching my videos. And for those of you who have kids, because I know the consistent people who watch my videos, I know are still in high school, so they don't have kids. But for those of you who I don't know very well, if you have kids, if you need any parenting advice, you can always ask. My kid's only 3 and 9 months or something like that. 3 years old, and in November he's turning 4. But I do have experience with other kids, mostly boys. Never really babysat any girls, really, but you can always ask me for advice. I can make a video. If you have a question, I can make a video if you want, or I can just talk to you in a private message. That goes for any type of advice anyone has. But yeah, thank you for watching my video. I appreciate it. I will try to do a gaming stream tomorrow night, I think, as long as everything goes well. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys later. Bye.